the minimum wage, Labour dumps negotiations over federal government's 48,000 naira proposal. We also have imported food prices rise as inflation hits about 33.69%. So the average price of imported food commodities in Nigeria has risen to the highest level, reaching 34% in 1 year between April last year and April this year. This is an increment of a 200 basis point from 32%, which was recorded in March 2024, according to an analysis of the Consumer Price Index report released by the NBS on Wednesday. Also, on the minimum wage, you're looking at 48,000 naira was the figure that the federal government offered to pay. But Labour and the TUC dumped the minimum wage negotiations because that particular figure was far below the 615,000 naira the unions were demanding as the new national minimum wage. Now, after abandoning the session, the Labour leaders summoned an emergency press conference where they vented their displeasure with the offer, describing it as an insult to the sensibilities of Nigerian workers. And this was the second time in 2 weeks that a negotiation had run into trouble. The last session, held April 29th, was deadlocked after organized labor insisted on the 615,000 naira minimum wage. The federal government had disagreed, and now we're at a stalemate, because if you look at the 48,000 naira, when you calculate how much an average Nigerian spends on transportation, you're looking at 1,500 every day. If you leave, let's say, an average of 1,500 naira, or let's say an average of 1,000 naira every day, how many days in a week? 5 days in a week. Some people work 6 days in a week, but on average, let's say 5 days in a week. So if you multiply that by 5 days times 4 weeks in a month, you're looking at 20,000 naira spent only on transportation. Then you now look at food, which is the highest amount of money people spend out of their salaries. Like, I was looking at a figure yesterday, I was looking at a breakdown of some figures yesterday. I'm trying to find it. It showed a 57% increment in the cost of food and in how much people spend on feeding, right? Okay, here it is. So, not only is inflation in Nigeria food driven, but according to the MBS, it says it goes into details on which food items drives that inflation. You're looking at gari, millet, akpu, yam, water yam, dried fish, sardine, palm oil, vegetable oil, beef head. So now we're looking at how much what Nigerians spend their money on. They did an analysis. This is according to the NBS, right? They did an analysis of what Nigerians spend money on. Food is 57% of it. Transportation is a 6.4%. Health is a 6.2%. Education is a 5.9%. Services, including telecoms, data, and all of that, that is a 5.53%. Rent is a 5.28%. Fuel is a 5.01%. And entertainment is 1.07%. So for every 100 naira a Nigerian earns, 57 naira out of that 100 naira goes to food. So when you calculate that, and then you also look at how much was spent on transportation. So food, transportation, they're the biggest commodities that we spend our monies on, and that's something the president should be focusing on, right? I mean, why not scrap tariffs, custom duties on all imported foods, especially rice, beans, and wheat, for the next 2 years, at least until the farmers return back to farming after the security situation has, led them to abandon their farms, and that particular situation has been dealt with. So if you offer a 48,000 naira minimum wage, how does that translate to anything of help to Nigerians, right? How does that even translate to you being able to cater to your home? So if you spend 57 naira out of 100 naira that a Nigerian earns, right, on food alone, then you calculate transportation. Out of that 48,000 naira, what then can be used for anything of value? What then can Nigerians save and say, okay, I am saving for a future? So 48,000 naira, if you ask me, the offer by the federal government doesn't even begin to cut it. Now, Senator Ndume yesterday made a statement which is really, really interesting. He said corruption is people driven. He said politicians share what they steal with the people. The chief whip of the Senate, Ali Ndume, he has explained the difference between corruption by politicians and other people. Right? So he said corruption in Nigerian politics is people driven and should not warrant any serious punishment. Imagine what he's saying. The senator admitted that politicians actually steal and share with the people what they make. He stated this when he was featured on the television station yesterday, on Tuesday rather. He said when politicians' corruption is compared to others, it is a small one. He said that corruption is, if you compare us to politicians, to all the corruption, it is very, very small. Corruption is people driven. If you steal it, you will go and share with the people. If you don't, you're not coming back for 4 years. There's no reason for stealing. He's been to the National Assembly and he can say that because they're on TV now, he will not be telling the truth. So if the death penalty is supposed to be included in corruption, he'll support it. But you don't go and kill someone that stole 1 million or 1 billion. But someone who steals 1 trillion of government money should be killed. Now imagine the effrontery to say this. Stealing is stealing. Whether you steal Gary, whether you steal rice, whether you steal whatever it is. We have Nigerians, well-meaning Nigerians, everyday masses. You see videos online where people are caught stealing just to be able to fend for themselves, just to be able to eat that day, and they are accosted by the police, taken into custody, and they go to Kirikiri for years. Meanwhile, you have government officials, politicians who steal over millions of our taxpayers' monies, and they do not even see. They do not even see. I don't even know what to call it. They do not even see a mobile court. Not to talk of Kirikiri. Good morning, Mr. Rufai.
Morning, Jesse. Bless you.
All right, let's get into it. This morning, we saw a statement. I was just talking about the statement Senator Ali Ndume made on television day before yesterday, about corruption being people-driven. He was asked about the death penalty. And he was asked about the death penalty as a deterrent for those people that are politicians that are caught stealing. And then he says, okay, he said that if a politician steals money, the politician shares it with Nigerians. So why should he be killed? Why should the death penalty be applied to someone like that? So if I don't know what to even make of this. It's infuriating to even hear this particular statement.
No, it's a sad one, but it's also true. The people too also drive corruption, but this is ourselves. If you hold the book position and you have some financial wherewithal, you see how people change towards you. But you as a person, you are the one that should not control yourself. And let people around you know that not all that glitters is gold. You can do the very best you can for people within your capacity. But people can push you to outlandish things sometimes. But really, when people push you around, maybe you're not even fit to be in that position. So that's also the counter argument. But it's also true, the pressures of people. And that's why you see, I don't take people's praises too much in my head. I appreciate them, but I don't put it too much in my head because I know it's fickle. And today they praise you, tomorrow they move on. It's always about the highest bidder. Human beings are selfish. The earlier you realize this, the day you know peace. You can't please the world. Nobody has ever pleased the world since time immemorial. The best you do is be remembered in the pantheon of history. People will still talk about other people. So don't kill yourself on the things you can't do. Don't try to outdo yourself. At some point, they talked about Attila the Hun for being one of the greatest military generals. At some point, they still talked about General George Patton in the Second World War. So life is transient. You need to understand these facts and be yourself. Don't try to please everybody.
But Mr. Rufai, if you look at this particular statement, right, how many politicians actually share what they steal with Nigerians?
Trust me, a lot of them. In all the midst of all this shenanigans, if you know the burden some politicians are shouldering, you will pity them. It's not easy. I've been with quite some of them. Yes, I know some of them splurge and everything and all of that. But also, they too, they have a lot of burdens. These are precipitated by the people. I've seen politicians, that people will come and meet. A man will indiscriminately have many children. Then he will come and meet politicians and say, your children need school fees. You need to go to the home of a politician sometimes during his constituency hour and see the needs that are coming to meet him. In other developed climes of the world, constituents come to meet politicians to help them talk about things that affect their community, not bringing their personal needs. So, but for a year, that's why you see, I fear the greed of our politicians, but what I fear more is the greed of the people. Have you ever wondered why 100 naira, 2,000 naira take the balance of politics in this country? Because of the greed of the people. And these are the factors I keep talking about.
All right, let's move on from that and look at this particular headline. The Nigerian government approved the sum of 37.2 billion naira for the Court of Appeal building and a 12.5 billion naira to buy 200 Toyota Land Cruiser Buffalo V6 vehicles for the Nigerian Customs Service. The government also approved insurance cover for those vehicles at the cost of 522 million naira.
Why can't we build those cars here? So when I'm hearing Toyota, I'm not happy. Give Innoson, Nord, Jets, and other car manufacturers the contract to build those cars. All the cars that is used by all of our government agencies should be used here, be bought here. Because if we don't do that, we can't grow our auto industry. And auto industries are very important in every part of the world. Do you know that the auto industry in America is about 5% of the GDP?
Whoa.
Yeah, so just imagine if we now start to have auto inventory to our GDP and increase our auto sales. It's going to go a long way.
A long way. Huh.
Yeah, so don't give that money to Toyota. Give that money to Innoson, Nord, or some other Nigerian-made cars. And the president should change his presidential fleet. His official car should be either Innoson, Nord, or Jets, specially built. Or tell the three companies to come together to bring all their engineers together and create something for the president. So that we have our own official presidential car, like the beast is in America. So that we can have our own official car built by Nigerian engineers for our president, so that our president can drive them all around. When he does, you'll see that it will bring a lot more awareness to the auto industry in Nigeria.
All right. So 48,000 naira minimum wage proposal by the federal government. First of all, Mr. Rufai, I saw an analysis by the NBS, and they gave a breakdown in details of what Nigerians spend money on. Out of every 100 naira, according to the NBS, 57 naira out of that goes into
food now.
Food.
Not food now, now waki now. That food they take the most money.
So
now waki, man must chop. Man must chop.
I'm now wondering, what is 48,000 naira going to do to an average Nigerian?
No,
in fact,
no. Yes, you know, I was berating Labour for saying 615,000, but I'm now berating government. That 48,000 is a joke. See, there's another stat by MBS that says for a meal, if you want to eat a meal that has all balanced diet, fruits, vegetables, your fiber, protein, and all of that, it will cost you 983 naira for a meal that has everything. So just imagine at least you eat 2 or 3 square meals a day. That now multiplied by 30 days in a week. And the government is giving 48,000. At least we are saying 100 is still manageable. But you can't now put 48,000. An organized private sector say 67,000. It's not going to cut it. Because most of your money is going off. And you see, that 57 naira, with the rate at which inflation is going, very soon it's going to be 60 naira of every 100 naira you earn is going to go on food. It's going to go on food with the rate inflation is going.
Before we now look at transportation, before we now look at those that have to fuel their cars, those that have to do this or do
and
that.
And gas costs is going up. Yeah, those that have to fuel their car. I mean, as of today, now if you drive okay, let's say by work I drive a 45-liter engine. You say you fuel your car once every 2 weeks. 45-liter times winners now, because this car is at 700 with the buy for Lagos now. 700 times 45. Just
that's 31,500.
Now don't pass minimum wage now. So if you fill your car once in every 2 weeks, and you have to drive to government establishments.
So what's the take home at the end of the day?
You don't have anything.
What do you leave out for rent? What do you leave out for entertainment?
You see that 48 is even lower than what Edo State is willing to pay. So that's why you see that government analysis is skewed. That 48 is even lower than what Edo State is willing to pay. Edo Place is paying 70. Eh? Edo State announced 70, isn't it? Government is announcing 48.
48,000.
Nah, it's not going to cut it.
All right. Let's move on from that and look at the process of nationwide deployment of compressed natural gas vehicles. It has commenced. This is what the news is saying. Not less than 530 buses are to be deployed by the end of the month in 6 pioneering states, looking at Oyo, Lagos, Kwara, Kogi, Kaduna, Nasarawa, and the FCT. Now, Mr. Rufai, this is just giving me the vibes of, okay, let's rush and do something. Make it not be like, say, we don't do anything at all till the, let's say our 1 year anniversary. Now at least we did something, one thing out of all the promises we made.
For me, it's very cheap in the sense that why you even extending it in 1 year? I mean, you remove subsidy like when? Like last year, and you announced the CNG, but we thought it was going to come on stream. So why are you trying to push it so that you used to claim glory afterwards? It's propaganda as far as I'm concerned. But also the good side of it is that some local car makers were brought in, like Jet Motors in Lagos benefited from it, which I saw. That's a good one for the government of that. But it looks propaganda. What you should do is build an ecosystem where you can get all this available. And where are the filling stations where people are going to get the CNG?
Exactly.
That's another question. Because me, I drive a CNG car. And to get CNG on the island now, wow. So maybe you are going to also proliferate those stations where people can get the CNG. This is also going to be part of the plan because that's what we should do in the end. So it's not by just saying, okay, we want to announce it for first anniversary. And let's stop doing things in such a way that is quite very tokenist in nature. Or because we want to announce for first anniversary. No, let's see beyond that. Let's do things that are truly sustainable for the people. If we have an alternative of CNG, and we can harness it in such a way that most filling stations you go and you can either buy your petrol or your CNG. More people want to do their conversion. And the day petrol people scarce, petrol people will not even do Yanga for us again. Because CNG is an alternative. Right? Petrol market said my move for itself. It's still going to be there largely, but they too will know that, okay, we can see. And this CNG thing works. I've seen many trucks. Some produce a CNG truck. I've seen a very big, good one. Like an 18-wheeler. So these things are possible.
Mr. Rufai, how much is it? Should I say a liter now? Is that the measurement for CNG?
No, so I think gas obviously is in cubic volumes or something, but your equivalence of 1 liter will be around 1 something or 2 something. 200 and something or 1 something. So there's a marginally cheaper threshold.
Okay.
It's more marginally cost effective.
Some people were talking about the cost of...
And it's quite durable because the one that... I'm still pretty much using the one that came in, my car at some point. I'm trying to get another one that's been difficult. So, I mean, it's quite durable. It's quite durable. And it's a smooth, neat drive and all of that.
Mr. Rufai, was your car converted or is it a CNG?
No. Mine was factory built from CNG.
Okay.
I drive an Innoson CNG. Innoson makes very good CNG car. It's called the Innoson Caris that has an optionality of CNG. So it was built like that from factory.
Okay. I was trying to find out from a friend of mine how much it is to convert your vehicle from petrol driven to CNG driven, and the figures I was hearing was over 800,000 naira just to convert.
Yeah. Formerly, if you see, that's why it's not so good when government don't do things on time. Formerly, when the economy had not gone bad, it used to be around 300-400K. And if the then minister Timi Praye Silva, had continued with his work then about the conversion and all of that, and they had made mass conversion possible for people, many people have gotten at a cheaper rate. And even if you had more kits being imported, maybe we'll be able to lower the rates. Or, government should even do some for people free. But apart from doing some for people free, it's the availability. That's what matters, It's the availability is what matters.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rufai, for your time. I absolutely appreciate it.
Bless you. Thank you.
All right. You heard it first here. If you're considering switching your vehicle from petrol driven to CNG driven, just hold your 1 million naira first. Just hold it first before you go ahead. But then again, you're also looking at okay, after converting, where are you going to get the CNG to refill your car when it's low? Where are you going to get all that? It's really it's a thing of concern. Just reeling out buses, right? CNG driven buses, giving them to Nigerians is not enough. Are you going to have and ensure that every single fuel station is selling CNG to Nigerians? Is it going to be that easy to get it? Anyway, we'll be watching to see how all that plays out, but there's still more in the news. 5 loyalists of Nyesom Wike, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, have resigned from the cabinet of Governor Siminalayi Fubara, and they were among those who rejoined the cabinet after President Bola Tinubu brokered a peace deal that eventually collapsed. Also, we're seeing in the FCT Department of Development Control has commenced the demolition of over 500 illegal structures at the popular Caribou Market in the territory. The Assistant Director of Sector Monitor in the Department of Development Control, Garba Jibrin, said the administration decided to demolish the market because the area has been encountering lots of bottlenecks because of the market since inception of Abuja. They're trying to, bring some developments to that area, getting the road done, put some structures there. But the market has been a major hindrance, and because of that, they are trying as much as they can to demolish and break off some parts of it so they can ensure development comes to that area. I'm trying to look for a particular audio. Really, really interesting in Rivers State. This is still in conjunction with what's happening with Enwike and Fubara. There was an audio where some people were singing Fubara must obey Wike. I'm trying to find it. I saw it in passing for a bit, but I wish I had it right now so you can listen. It's really interesting to see all the drama that's playing out right here in the country. When you look at just how far people have gone, just how far the governance has gone, in a river state, what the people are saying, what has been done, you would understand that governance is not something to be toyed with. Governance is not something to play with. Anyway, let's check out some of the audio from Mr. Debo Ologunagba, who was talking about the APC orchestrating drama to gain control of River State against the wishes of the people.
The premise is very clear. We're in a constitutional democracy where the will of the people should prevail. And we as Democrats, as a Democratic Party, believes in the Constitution and the rule of law. So I like the characterization where you said drama. It is a drama being perpetrated or being engineered by the All Progressive Congress, trying to capture, and that's the word they've used, to capture River State, which of course is against the will of the people, and we know they cannot succeed because the power of any government, of any institution, is in the people. The people of River State are firmly with PDP, and we know that, like you said, whether by physical action or by some subterfuge of trying to remove by impeachment, it will be a failure. We have said it repeatedly, that the APC should perish the thought of taking over control of River State. We have a governor in Governor Fubara, and the people of River State are with him. And what we can only appeal to the APC controlled federal government is to ensure that the APC does not begin to create circumstances of crisis as to justify capturing, in quote, of River State. We do know that the state governor and the assembly is in place, and we have put our position very clearly, which is consistent with the constitutional provisions, is consistent with judicial precedent, is consistent with the affirmation and pronouncement on the constitutional provision by the highest court in this country, and which is the Supreme Court. That is the position of our party, and that's where we stand today.
All right. Well, that was the voice of Debo Ologunagba, who is the National Publicity Secretary, talking about the APC government orchestrating unnecessary drama to gain control of Rivers State against the wishes of the people. Well, it's interesting to see all that is playing out. But let's hear why Fubara had decided to set up a panel of inquiry to investigate the affairs of governance in the state.
Disagreement there is no headway to it, and for a lot of reasons. There are very, very visible evidence that there is sabotage, deliberate attempt to sabotage this administration. For that reason, we have to move forward.
Yes.
And moving forward, if it means taking decisions that is going to hurt anybody, I'm happy that you're already a son before coming in. It means that you must have been a thorough man. It's not the one that while you're here, they now pay money to give you sand. Let me also say this. You have a big tax. As it is today, in the local palace, they said the jungle has matured. We will be setting a panel of inquiry to investigate the affair of governance. If in 2010, I was a chief accountant level 13, those of you who know the civil service, where will I be before 2023? So when you see people, because you want to impress your paymaster, you talk carelessly. But I won't reduce myself to that kind of talk.
All right. Really, really interesting what is playing out. I think I found, I think I see where I found the audio from Wike and Fubara's loyalists. Wike's loyalists, rather, saying that a Fubara must obey Wike. I'm trying to, yes. Really interesting drama that is playing out at this point. You begin to wonder where exactly we've gotten to with our politics. But we'll be checking this conversation out with Mr. Larry Oguego in just a moment. Make sure that you keep it locked right here. You're welcome back. This is still the front page review on Voice of the People 96.1 FM. The number to call to be a part of the show this morning is 0700 010 961 961 0700 010 961 961. We're also live on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. Voice of the People Abuja. Join us live on YouTube at Voice of the People Abuja. Good morning to you, Mr. Larry, and welcome to the show. Hello. All right. We'll try to reconnect. Network seems to be causing some issues here. You know, it's raining here in Abuja, so it's a bit of a problem this morning. Okay, we have him back on the phone. Good morning, Mr. Larry.
Yeah, good morning. How are we today?
We're doing good. We're doing great. All right, Mr. Larry, let's get into it. We're looking at labor and the federal government. There's a face-off: 48,000 naira as against 615,000 naira minimum wage proposal. What's your take on this?
I think it's amazing, a little shocking for Labour, but the reality has set in. Federal government is saying 48,000. And actually, Ajero said that they're not serious. It's a slap on Labour's face, that expectations and all that have been dashed. But the truth is that some states have not implemented the 30,000 minimum wage as we speak. While I'm not saying that 48,000 is necessarily good or that Labour should accept it, I'm thinking that we are not looking at the big picture. If states have not been paying 30,000 and Labour actually allowed them to get away with it all this time, what is the purpose of negotiating the 200,000, 600,000 that many states will not pay? Imagine how you will feel if some people are earning 150, 200,000 and then you are still earning maybe 30,000. I think there's a fundamental problem here. First of all, Labour should be able to figure out a way to compel states to pay, document states that are not paying, that is, do a proper scientific and statistical research, find states that are not paying, figure out how to compel them to pay, and then figure out that how to do it so that any minimum wage that is legislated upon will become sacrosanct, that the state will pay and organized labor will pay. And they have to look for something that, organized private sector rather will pay. And they have to look for an amount that the organized private sector can pay. It looks as if the 48,000 is a little small, yeah. But the truth is that we should think about the fact that states are not paying 30,000 now. So what's the purpose of calling it minimum wage when the states will disobey the law? Because when you have a legislation on minimum wage, it's actually a law. Unfortunately, Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world where leaders and the government will openly disobey the law and expect citizens to obey the law. And it's totally unacceptable. So Labour should think about even how do we get states to pay? If they're not paying 30,000, how are they going to pay 600,000? How are they even going to pay 100,000? How are they going to pay 48,000? That's the critical question that I have not answered. I will go back to what I've always said. Labour should begin to push government to think about the welfare of the people. They should think about making provisions in the areas that people spend money on. We have a national health insurance scheme that is obviously dysfunctional in many ways. We can improve healthcare. We can improve access to quality education through public schools. We can improve affordable transportation. We can improve affordable housing. If these things are done successfully, we can also see how we can make food more available and affordable. If these things are done successfully, then you can talk about 48,000. or any reasonable amount for that matter, because the things that will take the money away have been largely taken care of. But a situation where these things are not taken care of, even if you get 200,000, it will not be enough. I've said this a whole lot of times, and we are not listening. It's not about cash. It's about the purchasing power of the cash. It's about what the cash will have to pay for. So Labour should also be thinking about good governance, and they should be specific about their demands. We want private schools to slow down so that public schools can come back. We want a situation where those people who use government funds to build private schools for themselves, which have happened in some states, I know, that they steal government money and build private schools and then kill public institutions, that they should be tried. I mean, EFCC should be looking in that direction. So people destroy public institutions and build private institutions. They destroy public universities and build private universities. Destroy secondary schools, build elite secondary schools. If these things are minimized, then a little money will go a long way. But for now, we're in for a serious face-off, basically because government is not going to be talking about all this 500,000, 600,000. It's not going to work. In any case, it's not feasible. And then Labour may not accept 48,000. Edo State is already saying 70. But then even 70,000 will take a small shock in the economy. And many states can't pay 70,000 or won't pay. They may be able to pay, but they will not pay. So I think Labour should sit down with government and think of how to come out of this conundrum. And they should also be thinking about how to get the state to pay. They are not paying 30,000. How are they going to pay more than that? That is the big question I want Labour to answer. They must be thinking about how to enforce, not just to go and get it on paper and they sing a luta that we have won. So as the workers going to get it, most likely not.
All right. Moving on from that conversation. There was a particular conversation Senator Ali Ndume was having on television where he talked about corruption being people driven, and we understand that. But is it an excuse for politicians stealing? He said, if you compare us politicians to all the corruption going on in the country, it is very small. Our corruption is people driven. If you steal it, you have to go and share it with the people. If you don't, you are not coming back for 4 years. There's no reason for stealing. And he said that as when it comes to this death penalty for corruption, if the death penalty is supposed to be included in corruption, I will support it. But you don't go and kill someone who stole 1 million or 1 billion naira. You should kill someone who steals 1 trillion of government money.
Well, this is very fascinating because Ndume just confessed on behalf of politicians in Nigeria. He just said in not too many words that they steal, but with the purpose of sharing. That is the Robin Hood phenomenon. You steal and then you share. But the truth is that if we're going to make progress as a nation, then we are going to be rule of law driven. We should not steal for whatever purpose. And in any case, we don't want you to steal what belongs to us so that you share it to us. You are not supposed to do that. The problem they have is that they don't even share what they steal. They steal the bakery and then they share slices of bread. They don't even steal the loaf of bread. They steal the bakery. They steal the entire money for the system. Then they give pittance to poor people. And the fact that Ndume spoke about this openly tells you the level of impunity that drives politicians. They are brazen about it. Yes, we will take the money and then we give you handouts. That's precisely what he said. That is, we will take the whole money, then we give you survival ration so that you don't even think well. So when we want you to think that we must be obeyed, you think. When we want you to come for elections and vote for us, you come and vote. When we give you pittance, noodles to come and support us during primaries, you come. Because we have impoverished you. And that's what he just admitted. You see, when we talk about corruption and death sentence, it's not about the amount. It's about corruption. I've always said that the problem with this country is that we don't understand corruption. It is the same police officer that collects 100 naira or 200 on the road, that becomes a DPO and begins to collect 50,000, 100,000 for bail, then becomes commissioner and begins to appropriate the money allocated to the state for himself. Corruption is an attitude. It's a mindset. As long as it is there, it perverts everything. So it's not about the amount. Yes, I think he probably checked his own threshold and he said, no, don't kill us for this one. No. But you see, they are talking of death sentence for drug. Now we are saying corruption. They are forgetting. That is about human nature. You want to kill people for the minute test of drug offenses. But when it comes to corruption, you have grades of corruption now. I know we won't kill these ones. Go to China and do corruption now and tell me it's not 1 trillion. You won't live to tell the story. So I think what Ndume did on behalf of the political class is that he just told us the truth about how they steal our money and then reallocate to the rest of us. And that at this point, he should go and get the political elites to come and apologize to us and then actually go and sit down and give us that death sentence. If death sentence is good for drug offenses, it's also good for corruption-related offenses. Even more important, because it's the corruption that drives young people to do drugs when they are despondent. If this corruption is reduced, Nigeria will be better. People will do more useful things. The cases of internet fraud, drug peddling, and all of that will reduce because people have meaningful jobs. They have meaningful lives to live. They won't be thinking about these things. But when they look ahead of them, there's no prospect. They look everywhere. It's easy to recruit them to do crime. And it is the politicians that create the enabling environment for the criminals to recruit them. So they deserve their sentence before the criminals even begin to before we even begin to consider it for the criminals. The big criminal, the person who takes the commonwealth of the nation and then makes it impossible for people to thrive.
And you know what is interesting about this, Mr. Larry? You see a well-meaning Nigerian, a young boy who is trying as much as he can to feed his family of 5. Maybe his mom died or his father died and he's the breadwinner of the family and he steals bread. If you see the way the police will beat him up like he's something else, they'll take him, he will be locked up in Kirikiri for years. When you have politicians who steal 1 billion but they should not be killed.
The rule in Nigeria is that if you are going to steal enough. If you don't steal small things in Nigeria. That's why we are going down very fast as a nation. You don't steal small things. You don't go to steal 1 million naira because even the policeman will slap you and say only 1 million. So look at all the money there. You stole only 1 million. If you're going to steal money, steal enough to settle all the interested parties, and they will celebrate you. I mean, somebody they had the effrontery to say that $100 million was gift from people. $100 million in cash. There are countries in Africa that if you give them $100 million now, they may even begin to consider vacating their presidential palace for you. And one person had it in his house, a public officer, and he was eventually freed. He walked away because $100 million are gifts. And we have a code of conduct for foreign servants in Nigeria. And we have the code of conduct bureau. Who does that? So don't mind them. It is the politicians, the political elites in this country that are ruining the country. The examples they set are very bad examples. And that is why it is difficult for people to take them seriously. So when they say, let us do things well, nobody listens to them. We have a national orientation agency. How come they are not speaking? How come nobody's talking about orientation? Because the politicians won't even want that kind of institution to function. They don't, because if the National Orientation Agency begins to speak about what is happening in Nigeria and how to correct it, 99% of what they were talking about will be about the conduct of the politicians. So they starve such an institution of funds. We have NOA on paper. They're not doing anything because they're not funded to do anything. And then you look at other institutions, National Human Rights Commission, how much funding are they getting? So all the institutions that are pro-people are practically emasculated because they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, but the truth is that they say every day for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. One day the owner of the house will realize that these guys have stolen them blind, and because the owner of the house is Nigerians, so it's not just one owner. One day, the majority of Nigerians who have been victims of this attitude of incarcerating people who didn't even do anything. You're talking about the young boy that stole bread. Talk about the young man who is walking on the street in the dead of the night, and they'll ask him, where are you going? And before you know what's happening, he's at ATM waiting trial men because he can't afford money for bail. No crime committed at all in Nigeria. It's still happening. I have specifics, not general statements. And then the person who commits crime is escorted. It's escorted to nightclubs and all of that. And then after some time, they let him go home. Sometimes they're not even arrested. Sometimes they're supposed to be in detention when they're not. They will go home and sit down, and the name will be there that, oh, he's in detention. So don't talk about policing and the corruption that politicians have brought upon us. This is something that you don't want to think about. You feel bad throughout the day if you begin to explore that. We live in a country where if you're going to do crime, do big crime. People will even hear you. People have become so perverted that if you do small crime, they'll say you're stupid. If you do big crime and then buy big cars, you have what we call a convoy, and you make a lot of noise. They'll say, Babake, this one is serious. If you want to steal big. That's the mantra in Nigeria. If you steal small, you end up in Kirikiri. You steal big, you get chieftaincy titles and religious titles. That is how your nation works. And until we stop this cycle, we're not going anywhere. No matter the pronouncements we make, no matter how much we talk about dollar and naira rate, we'll still be, in fact, we'll be going down unless we correct
these anomalies,
the moral impasse that we are dealing with. Unless we fix those problems, we're not going anywhere.
All right, Mr. Larry, talking about dollars, the average price of imported food commodities in Nigeria on a year-on-year basis has risen to its highest, reaching 34% in 1 year. Now, it's an increase of 200 basis points, right? So this is according to the NBS. And if you're looking at these statistics, some people are saying that with the dollar that is going up now, we're still going to see a lot more inflation, especially in food commodities and all of that. So I don't know where we're going to. I do not even understand where we're going to as average Nigerians, as Nigeria as a whole, because we have issues, especially with agriculture and security, because we know that for every 100 naira every Nigerian spends, 57 naira out of that goes to food. So should we not be looking at security and agriculture as a key issue to be fixed before we look at anything else?
Well, that is an interesting suggestion, because if you don't have security, people will not be able to go back to the farm confidently and produce food. And then if you don't look at agriculture, I mean, people must eat. I mean, human beings, I mean, when you look at the hierarchy of needs, the first thing you do is to eat to be alive before you start talking of where you sleep and what you wear. The person who is dead doesn't need shelter, and the person doesn't need clothing. So you need food. And unfortunately, while the government has been making a lot of noises, the government is making a lot of noise about this issue of security and food. The reality facing us is that it appears that this driver just lost control of the vehicle. The vehicle is skidding and the driver is grappling with the steering. You know, if you're a driver, you understand this analogy. When the vehicle spins out of control, there is this moment of madness where the steering is spinning and you're struggling with the steering. That's where Nigeria is now, actually. That's why the dollar is doing a dance of the forest. And then things are going up, then go down, gradually go. That's the car is actually skidding. And the truth is that it doesn't look as if the driver knows precisely what to do to stop this skidding. And that is where the problem is. And when people who are expert drivers want to profile opinion, the political town criers, the political sycophants who surround Mr. President and other decision makers and stop them from listening to good advice. But the truth is that unless we sit down and find creative solutions to this problem of security, we won't go anywhere. And if we don't solve security problem, we won't solve any other problem on a large scale. And the security problem needs a creative solution. The routine solutions we've been trying before will not cut it. I mean, we've tried them and we have failed. So it needs a combination of creative ideas, a hybrid sort of thing that will combine different creative ideas and solve the problem. And you need a lot of integrity, because we pretend that we don't know that this insecurity money is actually coming into the legitimate space. People supply them food, people supply them bread, people supply them health services. Security agents that are corrupt actually gives them information. They buy arms, they buy petrol, they buy motorcycles. So the economy has even somehow compromised legitimate citizens who may not be doing the crime with them. So it's a lot more complex than we know now. It will need a lot
It's
of
an entire ecosystem.
yes, it's an economic ecosystem that is very lucrative. So if you were selling bread for 1,000 naira, they'll buy bread from you for 4,000 a loaf, and you supply in the forest, and you supply like 1,000. So they make millionaires. I mean, they make people rich. I mean, one baker actually confessed that when he started supplying, the life changed. So when you look at some of these things, you find out that the solution we are looking for is not your regular carry gun and go and shoot them solution. You have to think of that, how to dismantle that ecosystem, because people are benefiting, and those people who are benefiting, they have become accustomed to spending that money, and they won't give up on that money because we are preaching. So we need to become more creative. Unfortunately, the politicians are more interested in 2027 than they are in liberating Nigeria from the shackles of corrupt politicians and bandits. They are more interested in 2027. All the noise we are hearing now, all the money people are stealing now is about 2027 because they have monetized our politics and the political space.
All right. It's a really, really sad one that we're seeing in the country, and it doesn't seem as though the president is giving it the attention that it needs. We're seeing different policies. FEC is meeting every other day, and the fundamental issues are not being addressed. Is this the renewed hope?
I told you that the car is skidding uncontrollably, and the driver is grappling with the steering. That's why those meetings are lasting 2 days. That's why, the car is skidding almost out of control. And the driver is grappling with the steering. I hope the car doesn't crash.
All right. On that note, I will call it a wrap on the show this morning. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Larry.
It's my pleasure. And for those who are thinking that someone must obey someone, let them know that our duty is to obey the constitution of the land, not to obey any single person. Our job is not to even obey the president. Our job is to obey the constitution. As long as the president's instruction is not in alignment with the constitution, we shouldn't obey him. As long as the governor's instruction is not in alignment with the constitution, we won't obey the person. That's called the rule of law. So stop thinking that we should obey this person or that person. Start thinking that Fubara should obey the constitution. Do have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. All right, to you listening, it's a really, really interesting conversation. Mr. Larry always brings a fresh perspective to some of these issues that we talk about. Thank you so much for being a part of the show this morning. Don't forget, we are live always on YouTube, Voice of the People Abuja. You can check out the entire session if you missed it. Well, you just check out our YouTube, Voice of the People Abuja, and see what we have to say right there. All our shows are on YouTube. Go ahead and check them out. Thank you so much for being a part of the Voice of the People. Now you have a voice. Gesera is my name. Good morning. Coming up at 8:30 is the sports bit. Keep it locked.